Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here, and in this video I'm going to look at the chart of Betty White. All right, you all know who Betty White is. Guys, don't forget to hit the like button and please subscribe. All right, Betty White, mostly known for her role in Golden Girls. She was American actress and comedian, pioneer of early television, with a television career spanning almost 7 decades. She was noted for her vast work in the entertainment industry, being one of the first women to work both in front and behind the camera. She was the first woman to produce a sitcom, Life with Elizabeth. After making the transition from radio to television, she became a staple panelist of game shows, a whole bunch of different game shows, dubbed the First Lady of Game Shows. She became the first woman to receive a Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Game Show Host. The show Just Men in 1983. She was known for her appearance in the Bold and Beautiful, Boston Legal, Carol Burnett Show. Her biggest roles include Sue Ann Nivens on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, Rose Nyland on the Golden Girls, and Elka Ostrovsky Hot in Cleveland. She gained a renewed career resurgence in a romantic comedy film, The Proposal. She hosted Saturday Night Live in 2010, garnering her a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Guest Actress in a Comedy Series. And she was the subject of a documentary, Betty White, First Lady of Television, which detailed her life and career. She earned Guinness World Record for longest TV career by an entertainer, female, in 2014 and in 2018 for her lengthy work in radio, television, and film. White received various awards, including Primetime Emmy Awards, 2 Daytime Emmy Awards, a Regional Emmy Award, 3 Academy American Comedy Awards, Screen Actors Guild Award, and a Grammy Award. And she has a Hollywood Walk of Fame. All right. She's born a long time ago, actually. She would have been 100 this year, and I think she was 99 when she died. She was born during the Great Depression. She moved around a lot, and nobody had much money back then, neither did she. But it seems like she had a generally good childhood. She had an interest in wildlife and animals. She wanted to be a forest ranger, and instead she wanted to pursue a career in writing. And then as an actress. Let's see. She sang. She volunteered for the American Women's Voluntary Services and drove a truck. All right. She got work in radio, and she was turned down. Well, let's see. She made it around movie studios, but was turned down because she was not photogenic. She started looking for radio jobs where being photogenic did not matter. Her first radio jobs included reading commercials and playing bit parts, and sometimes even doing crowd noises. She made about $5 a show, and she would do just about anything. So she kind of had to work for it in the beginning, and she was not immediately successful like some people are, and that's interesting. You know, they have this. This is, just bear with me. I want to play this. I'm just going to fast forward a little bit.
And an oak tree? You think it'll work this time? I'm not going to ask you why you were doing that, because if I do, you'll tell me, and I'm in no mood for stupid questions and answers. I come out here to read my paper, and that's what I'm going to do. Excuse me.
Well, that's a fine way to start the afternoon.
brother, here we go. Wait a minute. Turn off the teeth, Elizabeth. Put the jaw back in place. Elizabeth. Okay. Now, you're showing all the symptoms of one of your tricks. I'm in no mood for tricks. You tell me exactly what's on your mind and nothing else.
I was just thinking that it'd be.
Wait a minute. No, well, I was just thinking. Just say, I want a new hat, or I want to paint the house, or I want $100.
How did you guess?
Which one?
All of them.
I just found that interesting because it's so archaic now, and it brings to mind a lot of like the sort of modern. I mean, it is distasteful coming from being now 2022, and you can see like, oh, the patriarchy. I mean, it is obnoxious and condescending, but the funny thing is that that was an agreed upon way of a cultural expression. I mean, she wrote the show, right? So it wasn't like some guy was mansplaining the show to her, and this is her role. It was her, but that was the culture back then. And I guess just a little point, sometimes like it annoys me when the victimhood that some women like to claim about all that, like, and the blame. We can change the culture and the attitudes and the roles of men and women without the blame and without the victimhood. I just wanted to put that out there. I mean, it was an agreed upon mode for both men and women, and it's not like women were weak back then. It's like that's a bad argument to say like, well, women were just not strong enough. Women agreed upon that role, and it was just the culture, it was the times. In any case, and obviously when they've had enough, or when the energy changed, when society became more evolved, it all shifted. There was a lot of things back then that from now modern perspective that would just seem really culturally unacceptable. Okay. All right, so yeah, that was her show. Let's see. White began hosting the show by herself, spinning. What were we talking about here? Variety show, Hollywood and television. Okay. Life with Elizabeth was nationally syndicated, allowing White to become one of the few women in television with full creative control in front of and behind the camera. That's what I was getting at, is that she wrote that material, and that was the first show, right? So that was the attitudes back then. Both men and women were complicit with that. It's not like men were dominating women. Women were not weak. They could, stand up for themselves. Men probably tried to have control, but in any case. It was unusual for a sitcom because it was co-produced and owned by a 28-year-old woman who still lived with her parents. That is pretty interesting and groundbreaking. It wasn't relevant, blah, blah, blah. All right. Let's move on. There's another important thing here. She hosted and produced her own daily talk variety show, The Betty White Show. Like her sitcom, she had creative control over the series, and it was able to hire a female director. She in a first for American network variety television, her show featured an African-American performer, what we call today a Black person. But the show faced criticism for the inclusion of tap dancer Arthur Duncan as a regular cast member. The criticism followed when NBC expanded the show nationally. Local Southern stations in the Jim Crow era threatened to boycott unless Duncan was removed from the series. In response, White said, "I'm sorry, live with it," and gave Duncan more airtime. Initial rating success, the show repeatedly changed time slots and suffered lower viewership. By the end of the year, NBC quietly canceled the series. So good for her. Right, standing up for Black people. let's see. And she appeared on lots, I mean, lots and lots of stuff. She became friends with Lucille Ball, who, in I Love Lucy. And, they had a parallel career, both being women pioneers in the film and movie, TV industry. She was a staple on game shows and talk shows. Married Tyler Moore in the Betty White show. Her persona came off, although considering the role will highlight her career, White described the character's image as icky sweet, feeling she was the very definition of feminine passivity. So that was one of her, like, a common thing for her, being like this overly sweet kind of role, which she reprised on numerous occasions. Let's see. I think she did, let's see, a running gag was how Sue Ann's aggressive, cynical personality was the complete opposite of her relentlessly perky TV persona on the fictional WJM TV show, The Happy Homemaker. Okay, so I don't even know that show, but I guess like there was some polarity there, which is interesting. A shocking reversal, I guess. We need somebody who can play sickeningly sweet like Betty White. So just speeding through things. Mama's Family and Golden Girls. I remember watching Mama's Family early on. Back in the 80s, sitcoms ruled everything because we just had these TVs, there was no internet, and it was all about these, silly sitcoms, because what else are you going to do for entertainment? No computers, right? So you watch, daytime TV or primetime TV, when you're bored and if you're lucky, you had a color TV with the knobs and whatnot, flipping channels manually, or if you add, eventually you could get one with a remote. So that was fun. My grandparents were freaked out about the remote. They thought it could give me cancer, so they were like, "Oh, never stand in front of the remote." I mean, I think there were far more dangerous things than the remote control back then, but in any case, funny looking back. She was deemed the first lady of game shows. And probably her biggest role was Golden Girls. And I think a lot of people remember that show, and it was hugely successful. And she played the role as Rose, who was terminally naive. If you told Rose you were so hungry you could eat a horse, she'd call the ASPCA. That was kind of her humor. She fit that role pretty well. She had a lot of other roles, including a very successful commercial. I remember this, there was a grassroots campaign on Facebook for Betty White to host SNL, and then she did host SNL, and she won an award for it. And, lots of other stuff, but, won tons of awards, highly celebrated, documentary, achievements and honors. She married a few times. Alan Ludden, who died young, was one of her husbands who she loved. She didn't have any children, but she gave up, I guess some of her early marriages, they wanted a more homey lifestyle, and she wanted a career, and she didn't want children because she specifically wanted a career. Let's see, Alan Ludden. He died. I was trying to find out when he died. I guess a lot younger than her. London died from stomach cancer in 1981. So that was a long time before she died. She didn't want to marry after that. So I guess he was her true love. And should heaven exist, what would she like God to say to her when she walked through the pearly gates? White replied, "Come on, buddy. Come on in, Betty. Here's Alan." Sorry. And then she died at 99. It's pretty long. And she was big into animal welfare. I remember in the Joan Rivers hosting the Tonight Show when she was on, she said she wanted to be like a zoologist, something like that, or zookeeper, maybe zookeeper. She loved animals in any case. And she was opposed to, obviously, racial injustice, pro civil rights, pro LGBT rights, which is a misnomer because you can leave out the T, because gays and trans are completely two different things. You're born gay. Trans is just the modern corruption. It's an ideology that's evil and satanic. Like there's nothing natural or organic by cutting off your breasts or your genitals and like taking artificial hormones from big pharma. It's just a modern. It's like horrifyingly evil and disgusting. Like I'm fully against trans. It's just a modern, disgusting corruption of humanity. Gay is, you're born gay, and who cares? Like you like men, you like women, who cares, right? It's completely, and they want to put it together, right? They want to take something that's natural and organic, which I think being gay is fine. Like I have no moral judgment against it, right? If you're born gay, good, great, I don't care, right? Trans is not that at all, right? So they should not be put together, but people, they do that on purpose to try and say, like, to try and hitch trans on the gay train, right? And it's awful. So, but she was, not against gays or for gays, whatever, cool, right? Trans is totally different. Trans is evil. They're pushing it on kids, getting kids to, cut off their genitals, take hormones, which ruin their, if you're a woman, you can't get pregnant. If you take, testosterone long enough, awful, right? It's destroying people's lives. All right. Sun conjunct Venus in Capricorn, 6th house, right? And so 6th house is, excellent for any sort of like behind the scenes production, editorial, writing, academic. It's very hardworking. Also for animals, animal welfare, and all that. Also like Capricorn, so that's partially why, or majorly why, one of the big reasons why she was not only acting in her TV productions, but also writing and producing them. Because the sixth house Capricorn's the boss. 6th house is very editorial, very hardworking. It doesn't get a lot of light because if the sun's in the 6th house, it's going to be in conjunct the ascendant. And like the sun in the 8th house, sun in the 6th house, not so great for limelight, right? And maybe that's why she was in TV instead of big films, right? Not like the huge attraction for like major motion pictures, but a little more mundane, right? A little more subdued. Like TV versus film, there's a difference, and we have to look at that. What's the main difference? Well, big film is bigger. You make a lot more money, especially a good film. You're a much bigger star, more celebrated. TV is a lot more like, okay, if somebody wants to be in film and cinema versus, or TV, if they have the option, I mean, like film is the much more esteemed kind of career path for anyone going into acting, versus TV. TV is smaller, right? It's less. So I think that's partially because 6th house. So her sun, this is the star quality, the sun, primarily for anyone who's you know, in front of the camera on stage and in the limelight. You want to look at where their sun is. So she's a little bit behind the scenes, but that does give her an edge as far as writing, producing, directing, that sort of thing. And then Sun conjunct Venus for like they're really like this sweet personality. Obviously Capricorn is not very sweet, but Venus is, and that does give her that's not the only thing. We'll look at other things, but that's going to help with this kind of you know, sickeningly sweet Betty, you know, Betty White persona that we've come to know. That's a factor. It's not the only factor. It is a factor. Sun is the ascendant lord, so she's going right into the 6th house, and that's also like I said, why she's like looking like why she's interested in animal welfare, because 6th house deals with pets. 6th house deals with lots of things. Could be like, you know, health and medicine or competition, stuff like that, right? But for her, it was animals and writing, producing, because also 3rd house, right? Venus is her career, her MC, lord, and the 3rd house lord. So it's 3rd and the 6th. So definitely writing, right? And career in the 6th house as somebody who's, you know, definitely like behind the scenes, working hard, writing, producing, directing, that sort of thing. Now her moon's in Virgo, and Virgo moon also definitely has kind of a niche market on like goody. I mean, not obviously not every Virgo moon is going to be like that, but Virgo moon is very puritanical, and it sort of makes it harder for somebody to be what, like, I don't know, obviously it's not going to keep, because like somebody like Lenny Bruce also had a Virgo moon, so it certainly didn't make him too pure to be disgusting, right? I don't mean any of judgment or offense. I just like he was pretty vulgar and crude and rude, but he still wanted, he still had that conflicting Virgo moon that was kind of like pulling him back into this nice guy role where he's like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, marry a prostitute or a stripper, but I'm gonna try and bring her back into the pure virgin territory, clean, you know, not being a stripper anymore. So, you know, Virgo moon has the puritanical qualities, what I'm trying to get at. It's very pure, very clean, excellent for hard work, for academia, for writing, for production, for anything like that, or being like, you know, it's very critical, but editorial as well. So it's enhancing all the 6th house stuff because it's the 6th sign, obviously. So 6, not satanic, just 6, number 6. And it's trine, sun trine moon, so it's perfectly harmonious. There's no inner conflict between her sun and her moon. They're really supportive of each other. And I mean, she does have some pretty strong squares and inconjuncts, but at least her sun and her moon, her parents, her childhood, and her emotional satisfaction combined with, you know, what her personality, where she shines, that's harmonious, and that's a really good factor. And sun is her ascendant lord, so that's also harmonious. Yeah, and it's 2nd house, so for speaking as well, right? That's, you know, that's enhanced as well. The 2nd house, security, finances, resources, things like that. But speaking for somebody like Betty White, you know, that's prominent, right? You're going to have a lot of actors have 2nd and 3rd house, you know, very strong houses in the 2nd and 3rd house, right? Moon is ruling the 12th house, so again, for creativity, 12th house is excellent for all creative things, right? And the alter ego, any sort of acting, film, cinema, fantasy, illusion, delusion, creativity, all that, because it's almost like produces a ghost. I like to think of it. The 12th house is like the mysterious ocean where everything sort of dissolves, but then there's like this ghost image. So if you want to look for ghosts, look at the 12th house, right? And that's also why you can see like acting and stories and art and all the creativity and stuff, right? Now Neptune is right on the ascendant, a little bit behind, but in Leo, so very glamorous, excellent for movies, anything creative. It's also carrying that 12th house stuff. Leo ascendant, shines brightly, and this compensates for the 6th house sun, Capricorn sun, because this is not such a bright, shiny sun. This is a hardworking, business-oriented, success-oriented, no nonsense kind of sun. But this Leo ascendant conjunct Neptune, that's glamour. I mean, let's see. I think this is Marilyn Monroe's combination as well. Leo ascendant was she Leo ascendant? I think Leo ascendant, but definitely Neptune on the ascendant. And so that gives a lot of glamour. And so she wasn't very photogenic, probably because South Node Chiron, but she did have a modeling career at some point. And she was, at least glamorous enough to be on TV for all those years, right? But also Neptune kind of has that spacey quality, that expansive, like ditzy, it gives off that image, right? Even if that's not the case, like I'm not saying she was like any sort of like ditzy type of person. That's certainly not with the Capricorn 6th house Capricorn sun. I mean, that's very that's quite intense, quite hardworking and boss material, right? But her persona definitely had an element of the ditzy girl kind of vibe, but also glamorous and great for being in the limelight. And so some opposing forces there, front center, in front of the camera, but also behind the scenes, writing, producing, editing, directing, that sort of thing. Guys, as usual, I'm just going to take a minute to go. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. All right. So there's pretty good harmony between her big three. I'd say there's really nice trine. Moon to Capricorn, that's not doing anything. Sun to Virgo, it's not really doing anything there, but just the trine in general, and Sun and Moon, that's really good. Let's see here. This Saturn is super strong. I gotta say, really, really super strong. See the S there? Stationary, right? And what that means is it went retro station minus 18 hours, less than a day. It's stationary retro. About to go retrograde. It's about to go retrograde is what it means. But it's stationary. And it's exalted. Saturn in Libra is exalted. And it's conjunct the North Node. I mean, this is like, it's in the 3rd whole sign house, pretty close to the 3rd cusp. So very strong for 3rd house stuff, right? And in an air sign, right? So, and then Jupiter is okay in Libra, but, Jupiter brings success regardless. So for writing, for communicating, for speaking, because Moon is 2nd, for natural communicative abilities. I mean, this is like so strong, and it's ruling the 6th and 7th house. So 6 again for writing. So 6, mutual reception between Venus and Saturn. Venus is in Capricorn, Saturn sign. Saturn is in Libra sign, exalted. So 3rd and 6th house, and it's dispositing the Sun and Venus. Saturn is, and so writing is big on her list of abilities, and it's communication. right? Especially as she gets older with the North Node here. First half of life, bit of a struggle, right? Not bad, because South Node, although it's conjunct Chiron, it's activating this Mars in Scorpio, Mars in domicile. She has a very strong chart as far as like dignity goes. And whenever you see somebody with lots of planets in dignity, you know they're going to be like this. They're going to have their personality anyway is going to be very dignified. They're going to be like the good people, right? Like I just think about this for a second. Her and the other person that I know has like tons of dignified planets is Steve Carell. Like they're two peas in a pod. They're just like too good, right? And versus like Lenny Bruce and Eminem, who have like tons of poor dignity planets, right? These are dirty, foul mouth, gross, right? People who are like doing drugs and having sex with prostitutes and stuff like that, right? Betty White embodies this pure, botanical, goody two shoes, hilarious, right? But this overly sweet kind of persona. She had some edgy stuff. I mean, Mars and Scorpio, come on, Mars and Scorpio is pretty much a badass. So I mean, but a lot of her personality was this overtly like sickeningly sweet kind of woman who is just very, very good. In other words, very, very kind of sweet and nice and like that. I mean, that's her personality, right? And you can kind of see that with the Sun conjunct Venus, exalted Saturn, North Node Jupiter, Virgo moon, and then the Neptune in Leo conjunct the ascendant. But this is super strong for her career. And then not only that, we have an excellent trine to Mercury in Aquarius. And then I left in these asteroids because they're pretty much just going to enhance her Mercury. We have Juno, which is a marriage asteroid, but it's an asteroid nonetheless. It's just going to give another dimension to this Mercury. And then Black Moon Lilith is adding a little bit of a bad girl vibe. I don't know if you listen to her stand up, she does go there. She's like, but it's funny the way she does it. Like she'll say something naughty and then like, at least in sometimes it just flows, and then other times she's like no, but like I don't know, at least in the Joan Rivers show it was like she made it some gross sex joke and then she's like but in a very funny way, like if that's the Virgo moon, like kind of denying that, like pushing that away, but she does it. And also Aquarius, right? This is air signs. I mean, Libra I don't usually find so funny, but Aquarius is hilarious. Aquarius is the most absurd. Gemini is the quickest and wittiest, but Aquarius is the most absurd. So her Mercury in Aquarius on the descendant, well, about 9 degrees from the descendant, but still very close. That's hilarious. And then this perfect trine between Saturn. And Betty White is not like the most hilarious, gut busting comedian out there, but she's funny, right? And this North Node and Saturn, and then Jupiter is helping in the third house, communication. Extremely strong third house and sixth house and seventh house. Saturn's ruling Saturn's domicile lord of Aquarius. So an exalted Saturn trine this Mercury, it's very strong, is what I'm trying to get at. It's very strong, right? Excellent communication, excellent mind, excellent intellect, excellent ability to see the funny and just communicate it effectively. That's very important. It's not just about having a funny mind, it's about getting it out there, delivering it, right? That's a huge part of comedy. So she has that in spades, and that's why she could be on TV for so long. She could write, she could produce, and she could deliver. She could do stand up. She could just be spontaneously funny. just like Joan Rivers could. Just, being on the spot, hilarious. That that third house, extremely successful third house, extremely strong third house, and seventh house, and sixth house. Right. So that's very strong, extremely strong for Betty White. The other thing is that this Uranus, although it's in the eighth whole sign house, it's still effectively in the seventh house. And Uranus is the shocking component that is often also very, very funny, right? Because Uranus is the co-ruler of Aquarius. Uranus is by degree exactly in conjunct this exalted Saturn, right? And that tension is why she can be like, she can, shock. She can shock, right? She can deliver she can just say stuff that's kind of off the wall, right? And that's funny, whenever somebody can just be like, deliver the unexpected, and that's Uranus, delivering the unexpected. That's what we laugh at when people say stuff that we're not expecting, that's shocking. Like sometimes shocking stuff can be like, wow, oh my god, like. But other times, if they have a natural funny ability already, then that shock is just hilarious. It's like, that's what hits the funny bone, and Uranus is excellent for that. A lot of times Uranus is what makes somebody funny. Uranus alone, like Robin Williams, it was conjunct his ascendant lord, and that's a huge part for him. It just gives him this electric. Robin Williams, it seems like he's plugged into an outlet, right? Or he's on cocaine. Seems like that. Uranus is conjunct Pluto. Sorry, trine. Trine Pluto. And that's interesting. I mean, that's probably going to add. Well, you know what? This Pluto is interesting on its own. Like it's in, it's pretty close to the 12th house, but it's also in the 11th house. And why I say that is because Pluto in Cancer really brought out the whole women's lib and civil rights movement, because Pluto, being an outer planet, really influences all of society very strongly. And wherever Pluto is, that's where a lot of tension lies. There's a lot of energy for transformation in the sign that it represents, Cancer being the woman, the mother, right? But also the underclass, because of the nature of Cancer. Cancer is very caring, nurturing, family, motherly, but it translates to civil rights as well, is what I'm saying. For numerous reasons. I mean, Black people are, that you could qualify the Black race as water, Cancer is water, but just as like the underclass, because a mother loves all their children. They don't discriminate. It's not motherly to not love one of their children. That's not how a mother operates. A mother loves all her children equally. And so when one of her children is being discriminated against, then you're going to evoke the mother attitude, the mother, the mama bear, right? And so there was this mama bear kind of quality when Pluto was in Cancer. It was bringing out the mama bear, bringing out the civil rights, everyone who was it's gonna go both ways. It's not just, obviously not everyone was for the equality of women and minority groups, but whoever could embody the spirit was, right? And so and Pluto has that push-pull, right? It's not just one-sided. It's not like Pluto's in Cancer, now everyone's equal all of a sudden, right? No, there's still a battle, because that's the nature of Pluto. It's the war. It's a war. It's creation, destruction, right? It's not just like, okay, now everyone's equal and yay, right? But also 11th house. So 11th house deals with social issues, right? 12th house Pluto is going to be destructive, right? And so, you know, there probably is some secret hidden things. Pluto in the 12th doesn't appear destructive, but they can be very destructive because it's hidden. Their Pluto's hidden. I have Pluto in the 12th, and Pluto in the 12th can seem you know, ineffective in certain ways, like as far as like having like a certain kind of power. I mean, I have Scorpio ascendant, so a little different, but and 8th house sun, but Pluto in the 12th can appear like ineffective type people, but they have Pluto, it's there, and it can be pretty destructive. It's in the 12th house of the subconscious. In any case, 11th house, because social, she was very socially aware, right? She was aware of her own ability, need to bring up the woman, the feminine archetype in society, and she did that, you know, especially early on. The South, it's square, right? Square the nodes, it's square the Saturn, it's square the Chiron. So early in life, she was dealing with the Chiron, you know, not photogenic, Betty White, you're not photogenic. 9th house for travel, she traveled around a lot in early childhood. But the Chiron is that wounded, outcast, you know, reject, right? And so she had to work hard early on in her career with this Chiron. And square Pluto, she's dealing with all the feminine archetypes of that time, and the repression, the male dominated society. And again, I'm for the equality of all people, men, women, all races and all that. My only comment was, we don't need to blame, and we don't need to have the victim attitude. We can do it like adults, and just, you know, that's the way it was then, this is the way it is now. Deal with it. We're changing the archetype, we're changing the paradigm, right? It's no longer a completely male dominated society. I don't like that either, because I don't want to be like, you know, talking down to women and just be like, do this, do that, I'm the boss. I don't want that kind of, because it's asleep. It's some, you know, the women have to conform to a subservience. It's ridiculous. I don't, who wants that? It's you know, you're not getting a real, you're getting something fake. You're getting something inauthentic if that's the kind of role that you want a woman to play. I don't want that, right? I want everyone to be who they are, right? In any case, so this square indicates that she was up against that. And you know, this Saturn is so strong. It's not only exalted, but it's stationary, and anything that's stationary is going to be extremely potent, extremely powerful, right? And so, you know, her second half of her career was much stronger than her first half, and still dealing with this Pluto archetype, except this time, you know, it's not, you know, South Node is in the superior half of Pluto, so that makes a difference. So initially she's fighting Pluto. Eventually it's sort of Pluto's, you know, coming after her. And you can see that with Pluto ruling the 7th and the early death of her husband. So, I mean, even though the Saturn is extremely strong in her ability to work and write and produce and edit and behind the scenes, all that kind of stuff, right? And her ability to connect with people in personal relationships, connect with the audience, right? Communicate effectively, reach other people. The Pluto is still bearing down on this 7th Lord, 6th and 7th Lord. I mean, she lived to 99. So obviously, I think, you know, I think maybe that's because Sun is here. They say Sun in the 6th burns away any negative stuff in the 6th house, you know, so it can be good, right? But the 7th Lord, her husband died young. She married, I think, 2 or 3 times, and he died young. Pluto, Chiron, right? Pluto and Chiron. When Pluto and Chiron are making bad aspect to a single planet, that's not good. That can mean death, because then you have the 2 malefics in negative aspect. I mean, Pluto alone can mean death, but Pluto and Chiron, that's like, you know, adding insult to injury, right? It's you know, it's bad. It's difficult. It's a challenge. Actually, 3. I didn't even realize this. I mean, yeah, I did, but I wasn't just now. Pluto, Chiron, and Uranus, all bearing down on this Saturn, because 7, 8, 9, 7, right? That is really, really harsh. Even though it's so strong, it's got a lot of difficulty too. So she had her challenges, especially with her husband, and you know, I don't know what else. I mean, I guess like the whole civil rights issue, you know, her standing up for her black coworker, tap dancer, things like that, and probably other issues around her being a woman, you know, early on. She was successful with it, but there was probably still a lot of people who were like not happy with it, right? Not happy with that kind of thing. Yeah. Moon is also semi-square Mars, and that's not good. That can mean abuse, especially with such a strong Mars. So she probably had her issues, and I didn't read anything about this, but I'm just saying, you know, there could definitely be issues with, you know, some powerful men, especially early on, 6th house or 4th house, who were not happy with her wanting to, you know, succeed in a male-dominated industry. I mean, male-dominated everything at that time, really, right? Yeah. Mars is in Scorpio, and yeah, Mars is in domicile in Scorpio, so this 4th house, so like good childhood, but also Scorpio. I mean, Scorpio is never fully good, right? It's always dark and it's always heavy, right? And so like even the best Scorpio, it's still gonna bring in Scorpio. The Scorpio is like, you know, the harsh, intense, deep, gritty, raw, authentic, you know, living on the razor's edge, howling at the moon, screaming with desire and intensity and ferocity and raw. It's just that kind of energy, you know. It's never going to be like, you know, moon and Venus and Taurus, you know, luxury, living, sipping champagne on the yacht, right? Eating caviar with, you know, beautiful men and women around, tons of money in the bank account, stuff like that, right? There's always going to be a harshness to Scorpio, a rawness, a stripped naked. There can be a lot of power, but even within that power, it's like you're probably, you know, gonna have to deal with war and death and conflict and strife and enemies and all kinds of crazy stuff, right? It's never, Scorpio is never that easy. So anyway, yeah, there's a conflict with her moon, with this very intense, strong Mars, which is interesting. So something about her childhood that, or her home life, or homeland, that was a constant, you know, and she's not going to show it. She's, you know, it's got this Neptune. Neptune is a liar. It's an actor. Neptune is the delusion, fantasy, right? And so you're not going to really see this side of her, but I mean, she had some conflict. She had some inner tensions for sure. Some things that were weighing heavy on her mind. Absolutely. Mars ruling the 9th house in the South Node. So we know that this is definitely her early life was this Mars in Scorpio, good and bad, very, very intense, some very intense stuff early on. And what else? Mars Mars is also square the Mercury. That's interesting. The Mars square Mercury, when Mars is in difficult aspect to Mercury, it can create a lot of conflict, especially like argumentation, right? Because then you have the aggression and then you have the verbal communication. And so there were some things that she was fighting about. Could be over land, over house, home. Could be dealing with, other relationships. Apparently, she did not get along with fellow Golden Girl. He was Rue McClanahan. I can't remember her name on the show, but the more dry one, the daughter. There was the mom, the little old lady from Sicily, and then her daughter, who was like this kind of big, beastly woman who was very dry and Saturnian, serious. Apparently, Betty White was far too sweet and happy for Rue McClanahan, who was, like dry, bitter woman, and they didn't get along. So, I mean, she had her enemies. She was, I don't think it phased her because she's like just, so strong in many ways. Especially with her expression, her ability to connect with people. And then, by the way, this Saturn, a North Node conjunct Saturn represents length, right? Long time. North Node conjunct Saturn often represents career, right? So very long, exalted career. That's Saturn exalted, Saturn stationary, North Node conjunct Saturn in the third house of media, communications, writing, intellect, and for her, obviously comedy, especially with connected to this Mercury in the seventh house, her ability to express. So yeah, a little bit of square between Neptune and Mars. That'll create some delusional fantasy, but probably for somebody like an actor, actress, creative type, it's just fuel for the fire. I mean, it's just, maybe if she was a political, it could create something delusional, some sort of quixotic, chasing windmills or fundamentalism, because Neptune can be ideology and Mars is the aggression. So it's like, maybe like a religious zealot might have something like this. Who was it? Charles Manson had the conjunction, right? And that was the quixotic religious fundament, even it wasn't religious, ideological fundamentalism, some sort of fantasy that they're chasing windmills. But I didn't see. I mean, it worked out for her, I guess, whatever it was. So there's that. And what else? A bit of a semi-square between Venus and Uranus. Let's see, Venus third house and 10th house. Sort of shocking things about her career that were maybe conflictual, shocking changes, abrupt disruption, starting and stopping. Like, she had a lot of changes, a lot of shifts, a lot of, even though her career was very long, she did so many different things. And that's kind of like the nature of Uranus, is like shocking, like starting, stopping, sudden events. It's going to, but also like, for her comedy, shocking, conflictual, that's all good, right? You need a bit of edge, too much sweetness and softness and, fluffy, marshmallowy cotton candies doesn't make for good material. You need some friction. So she has some friction there, and I think that's helpful. Right. I think I forgot to, this is Joan Rivers. Pull up the Draconic. So I haven't even looked at this. Let's see what we got here. All right, here we go. Okay, well, we got Uranus in the first house, pretty much conjunct the ascendant in Leo. That's interesting. I mean, certainly iconic, independent, revolutionary, kind of brilliant, genius. You know, I think that's fitting. Certainly like a spirit of that, right? Mercury in Cancer in the 12th house, you know, the creative, fantasy type stuff. And then actually a lot more Sun and Venus. And then right above this Pluto. So I think this Pluto in Cancer was playing a major role for her. You know, if we relate it to her civil rights struggle, her role as a feminine icon and feminine leader in, you know, the film industry, I think that's very appropriate for her to have her Sun and Venus conjunct that Pluto, because it's sort of like her a defining quality of Betty White. You know, really helping elevate women in the film industry, the TV film genre, and comedy as well. Right. Chiron conjunct the moon. So she was feeling a bit of an outcast, but despite all that, you know, despite her wounded self-image that she might have had underneath the smile and the bright lights and the, you know, she was probably, you know, hurt, wounded, and dealt with it like amazingly, because you know, she just had the persona where she could just smile right through any of the pain that she had, and, you know, not be a victim, just rise above it. And that's very Saturnian, right? So Saturn, a good Saturn can take so much hardship and difficulty and deal with it and just be okay with it. Whereas other people, you know, a weak Saturn might be crushed. A weak Saturn's gonna have to work really hard for the same success that a really good Saturn will have naturally, right? So that's Saturn, because the Saturn's the structure, it's the bones, it's you know, Saturn is really the old taskmaster, Kronos. So a strong Saturn can take so much abuse and hardship and difficulty and turn it around. MC in Libra, 3rd house, perfect, right? Career and communication, writing, speaking. Neptune in Aquarius, Ascendant in Aquarius, 6th, 7th house, also perfect for the, you know, backstage writing stuff, but also, you know, moving into the full-on relationship, connecting with people, personal relationships. Neptune for the creativity, the, you know, playing different roles, acting, that sort of thing. Moon in Pisces, very creative, and some eighth house stuff here. Jupiter connecting to the South Node and Chiron. So this is, you know, probably helping her early career, just giving her that spirit of Jupiter, that you know, no matter how many times she's getting rejected, she's still coming back, still chasing the dream. Jupiter's very optimistic, very you know, a good Jupiter is going to give us faith in life. Jupiter is more like, you know, the connection to the higher realm, the higher mind, God, spirituality, religion, philosophy, optimism, faith, you know, overcoming depression, keeping the faith, right? Faith, so strong. When you have good faith, you can overcome anything. Jupiter and Saturn, so important. Mars and Taurus, you know, approaching the MC from the 9th house. It's not really conjunct anything, so it's probably not, you know, it's not going to be super influential, but Mars and Taurus is a fighter, right? So fighting for her career, that's there. All right. That's pretty much it for Betty White. Yeah, TV, film industry, not film industry, TV, what's the industry? It's just the TV industry, I guess. Anyway, comedy, TV icon, and you know, legend, I guess you could say. So anyway, that's pretty much Betty White, and hope you enjoyed that. And please hit the like button, subscribe if you have not already, and leave a comment down below. Book a reading with me. My website is macroastrology.com. My email is macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. And I'll see you again soon. All right, thank you. Bye.